online pharmacy. And our main focus as a pharmacy, apart from selling medication, is medicine adherence. Let me tell you what I mean by that. When we go to a doctor and we're prescribed any medication for whatever it might be, chronic ailment, a scheduled vaccination, even a round of antibiotics, what we don't realize is that there are actually two very important ingredients which are very essential in order to make the effect of the medicine completely successful. One is, of course, the medicine itself. And the second is something called medicine adherence, which is nothing but following the doctor's orders to the T. What to eat, how to eat, when to eat, everything. Now, medicine adherence is very, very relevant to vaccinations. And through this 5 to 7 minute talk, I just want you to, I want to make you realize how important it is to vaccinate your children. And more than that, how important it is to stick to a schedule. Once, if we are sticking to our schedule, not only are we vaccinating our kids, but we're also making sure that our protection or their protection is always at the optimum. Okay. So first, I'd like to explain to you what exactly a vaccination is, and I think the best way for me to do it would be giving a relevant example to you. So imagine your kid has an exam or a race. What's the best way to prepare your kid for this exam or race? I would think it's practice. When I was a kid, my mom, if I had a 6-mile run, my mom would make sure I go for a couple of runs every day, or I would give a couple of mock tests before my final exam. Why did she make me do this? So why do you make your kids do this? Because subconsciously, you're preparing your children with exposing them to a little amount of physical or mental pressure. So on the day of the exam or on the day of the competition, they're completely ready and prepared to overcome any sort of mental or physical pressure that comes their way. So vaccinations are exactly the same thing. You're basically exposing your children's body to a small amount of the germ so that the body can accept it, it can handle it, and at the same time prepare for when the actual disease comes face to face with your child. Now when I say, I understand that when I say that you're exposing your kid to a germ or a disease, it sounds a little dangerous or a little scary, however small the germ might be. But you don't need to worry about that, because some of the world's brightest and smartest minds have figured this out, and they don't directly inject you with a germ or a disease. They've actually made 5 different versions of the germ or the particular disease, and that's what's used in the vaccination. So broadly, there are 5 categories. Sometimes a vaccination uses a live germ, but at the same time it's very weakened. Sometimes they use a completely inactive or deactivated germ. A vaccination could also sometimes just use a part of the germ, not the entire disease germ. And sometimes only the toxins of the germ that are actually causing the disease are used, and that too are deactivated. Lastly, sometimes vaccinations are made of chemical versions or mimicked versions of the germ. Now, there are broadly 5, as I said, but whatever the type of vaccination which is used, the main strategy of the vaccination is always the same. So the main mission of a vaccination or an immunization is actually pretty noble. Its main mission is to generate the production of antibodies in your children's children without actually making them sick. So what are protective antibodies? Now, antibodies are basically your children's personal defense cavalry. They're present in their body, and they're always on the lookout for diseases or germ. So whenever they come face to face with even a small amount of a disease, which is thanks to your vaccination, they'll come face to face with a tiny amount of the disease, they suddenly turn on the alarm in your body. So once they turn on the alarm, they go on a defense and they start multiplying. They attack this small disease and they start multiplying. And once they start multiplying and they're present in your child's body, they're there to stay. Just sometimes booster shots are given, which are basically nothing but a reminder to your defense cavalry or your defense force to always be, always be on the lookout for these diseases. So now, usually when I'm explaining this to people, one of the questions I get is, antibodies are created when you come face to face with the disease. So why do we need the vaccination? Why can't we just wait for the disease to happen? The antibodies will get produced and everything will be taken care of. But no, it's not so simple. Because usually when a child comes face to face with an actual disease, there's no control of the amount of the disease that is entering the child's body or the effect or the impact that the disease will have on the body. Therefore, vaccinations are created. Not only are they safe, but they're also controlled and measured, and that's the way to create the real immunity. Because because of this controlled measure and immunity is created, it's usually there to stay. So in the future, if the germs show up through a disease, through another child or other environmental circumstances, the body already has a dedicated defense force which is going to keep that disease away for life. Now, another major pain point which people mention when we're talking about vaccination is the falling sick after vaccination. Once a child gets vaccinated, sometimes they get a slight fever or a rash. So this is sort of a pain point for parents. But now that you're understanding how vaccinations work, it's basically you're exposing your child to a germ, you have to understand that obviously is going to be some sort of repercussions in the body. But also understand this, with a small amount, you get a fever or a rash. So what are you protecting your child against? You're protecting it against actually when it comes face to face, so the adverse circumstances which can come after. Here are just some basic, very, very recommended vaccinations, and what you're actually, risks of not getting vaccinated is what you're actually protecting your child against when you're getting them vaccinated. We have a soft copy of this, so if any of you are interested, you can either reach out to me or Priya and we can provide you with this. At this point, I'm not sure if any of the parents here have children in high school, but if they do, then at this point I'd like to mention that any of the kids in high school going abroad for their further education, you should know that most of the universities abroad have a prerequisite for vaccinations. So usually these include MMR, which is measles, mumps and rubella, varicella, chickenpox, and sometimes even TB, because TB is very prevalent in India. So I would suggest you go through the university's health checkup list, and you get all your kid vaccinated for all of them before they start term. I think I've given you enough reasons to get your kid vaccinated, but just before I finish, I'm going to give you one last reason. And this is actually has a humanitarian edge to it. It's something called herd immunity. Now, there's always a greater good that arises from doing good. This is something I really believe in, and it's so true for vaccinations. Because what is herd immunity? Herd immunity basically arises when a certain percentage of a population gets immunized, then it contains the spread of the disease to the other part of the population, only because there are not really many people left to which the disease can spread. So you're doing a very noble thing by vaccinating your own child. You're not only protecting your kid, but you're also protecting those members of the community who can't get vaccinated or haven't got vaccinated. This can include kids that are too young, or maybe adults that are too ill to get vaccinated. The proportion of the population that needs to get immunized in order for herd immunity to take over is different for each disease, but as always, more the merrier. So I'm going to end now, but by just this one note, definitely get your children immunized. There is no other option. There should be no other option. And more than that, adhere to the recommended schedule which is given to you by your doctor. Because only when your children are good, then we all are good. Thank you.